are in movie mode. Look, I'm not Ryan. I can't do it as good as Ryan does it. Ryan's a working man. This guy is all over the place, but he's doing a great job of maintaining several jobs at once. It's really impressive. We love you, Ryan, but you're not here today. All right, and the reason you're not here is because you're busy. So we had to find somebody to help you take his place, fill the shoes. It's big shoes to fill, yada, yada. But I found this guy on the street, and he's been begging me to come on this podcast for quite some time. It may be the reverse. You guys remember the guest that we teased months back? And I'm like, I'm going to try my best to get him on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we have John Flickinger in the house. John, what's going on, man?
Hello. Well, thanks for having me, man. I never met Ryan, but if you need someone who has nothing better to do on a Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock, I'm your guy. So thanks for having me. I'm ready to talk about some movies.
Of course, man. Yeah, Ryan's he's a beast, man. He's always taking care of this podcast. So we're going to try to get this out as soon as possible, but because it's me doing all the editing, I don't know if we're going to get it out as quick. And again, he steers the ship. So we're going to try to work our way through some movies today, man. It's been a busy last couple of weeks. We've had Gladiator, we've had Wicked, and Moana 2, which I guess we'll hit on as well. But, man, I can't believe we're already in December. Like, it's almost to our top 10 lists. It's almost to the point where we're just kind of reflecting on a year that went by so quick, man. So how you feeling about the last 11 months?
It all kind of blurs together, and I'm still searching and looking for my favorite movie of the year.
Okay.
And there's a few I'm holding out hope for. There's a lot of great movies this year, but I don't know if there's that one that resonated so deeply with me. I'm going to hold on to it for years to come and go back and rewatch it over and over and call it this timeless classic. But there's some movies I liked.
Do you have any that are, I guess, kind of hovering near the top that people wouldn't expect? I know you're going to want to save this, but do you have any that are kind of surprising?
We don't need to save anything. Let it all out. Well, a few. One of them, just because it was so batshit crazy and really moved me, that was a little movie called The Substance. And I quite enjoyed that journey of disgustingness in the theater, and I couldn't take my eyes off of it. I loved it, and I thought it was brilliantly. I loved the filming of it. I loved the look of it, and I want more movies like that. Another movie that I liked, which is a bit more typical, and I think we saw this together, did we not, Austin? Okay. Side by side, we held hands, I believe. Deadpool and Wolverine was a good time at the box office, and a return to form for comic book movies, if I might say so myself.
Dude, Deadpool and Wolverine's, I don't know why I'm seeing like pushback on it. It's that thing about comic book movies. It's that you wait a couple of months and then it starts to receive that backlash. And I'm looking on Twitter. It's just like I don't get it for this one, because from what I've seen outside of Twitter, consensus wise, this is a freaking blast. It's right in line with all the other Deadpool movies, and it is exactly what I expected. Yet I'm seeing people talk about how similar it is to other combat, how it didn't elevate Marvel and how it didn't save the MCU. Like, well, what's that all about, man?
I think it saved the MCU for me, personally speaking.
Me too.
When you go from Thor Ragnarok to Deadpool and Wolverine, one movie makes me hate everything about the MCU, and the other movie reminds me of what I liked about it. And I love Deadpool and Wolverine. It took a chance. It's rated R. It was self-aware. Hugh Jackman carried the emotional value. Ryan Reynolds carried the comedic value. It was perfect. It was a perfect blend of everything. I care again about the MCU.
My parents are really old school. Like, we don't like a lot of cussing in our movies, and we're used to, silly 2012 Avengers humor. They watched Deadpool and Wolverine. My dad called me, and he said, yeah, man, that was hilarious. He's like, look, I know it cussed a lot, and I was shocked. I'm like, you loved it? He's like, I loved it. And that's what I've heard from the general audience in general. I think is just they're loving this movie, man. And I'll be honest, it's still hovering around my top films of the year too. I feel like I'm on my own little critic boat over here, the only one that's really appreciating it. But I love that movie, man. And we had a great time, dude. We were freaking out in that theater.
Let's fucking go.
Let's
okay.
go, dude.
Yeah, I loved it, man. And I think maybe the backlash is people are gonna like poop on it now because it's just a comic book movie. It's not highbrow art.
Yeah.
But I want things like this. I need this. This makes me feel like a 12-year-old boy again when I watch movies. But on a different note, did you feel like a 12-year-old boy when you watched Wicked?
Yeah.
There's nothing like a musical
Dude,
to bring men together, I tell you.
I don't know. Did you see my tweet where it was like a week before the movie came out, and I wanted to be honest with people. I'm like, I'm not excited for this. I don't care about this. I've never seen the musical. I've never heard. I didn't know Popular was a Wicked song. I had no clue. When that came on screen, I'm like, oh, that's from Wicked. Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like I was so unaware walking into this movie, man.
Oh, I had no hopes, aspirations, or dreams, and I did not care about the movie. But my wife, she's a fan of musicals. She's seen the stage play. And so she kind of hyped me up for it as much as she possibly could. And then what I did, going into the movie, I just gave myself to it.
Oh.
I allowed it to consume me.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, okay, all right, okay, let's just do this. And I was pleasantly surprised. I would say Wicked is the biggest shocker of the year for me in the theater. Not only was it the biggest shocker. Now, keep in mind, I don't give the movie an A+. It's not my favorite movie of the year.
Sure.
But I did just recently see it again last night with the family, and I still enjoyed it. So Wicked, for me, as a dude, was a pleasant surprise, and I recommend it. And the best way I can maybe sell someone on Wicked who's a little bit on the fence, the way I watched Wicked was, think of it as like a really good live adaptation of a classic Disney animated movie. And when you watch it from that perspective, it's kind of like, it's not just a musical, it's like a good time. It's an adventure. It has some epicness to it, and the songs are catchy. Let's be honest, Austin.
The songs were great, man. That's a good way to that's a good way to say it, because when I was watching Wicked, the entire time I'm like, this is how I want to feel when I'm watching these Disney live-action movies, when I'm watching The Lion King, when I'm watching... I mean, I enjoyed things like The Jungle Book, but all of these other ones that have come out lately and they've just fallen completely flat. And then you watch Wicked, it's this crazy, almost, it feels like it should be an animated world, but it's come to life in this realistic and beautiful way. Little CGI, but for the most part it looked great. And it's magical, man. Like, it's genuinely... I was so on board with the characters, and every time a musical number would come in, which, sometimes in certain movies, like during The Joker, right, a musical number would come in, you're like, Jesus, here we go, we're filling time with these damn musical numbers. But then you're watching Wicked and you're like, no, let's go, where's the next one? You know what I mean? That's what you want a musical to make you feel like.
And speaking of that, did you ever think a year ago in 2024 you would say, I enjoyed Wicked more than Joker 2?
You would have.
Both are musicals.
I would have called you a moron. I would have said you're the biggest idiot on the face of the earth if you would have told me that 2 years ago. And that is not only, that's the case, it's not even close, dude. Wicked is 10 times the movie that Joker 2 is. Joker 2 looks amazing, but Wicked has everything you want with a story and characters and a plot.
We almost sound like we're pandering to it right now, and this is paid and bought for. But the truth is, it was a good time. And the thing I want to say about it is, I never cared about Ariana Grande ever in my life. And then I watched her in this film, and she has this subtle humor about her character.
Yes.
And her character is who plays Galinda or Galinda, whatever you want to call her. But she has this. She's the most self-absorbed character, but she's also like a do-gooder, and I liked that dynamic. She wasn't completely perfect, and it felt like there was a bit of humanity to her, and it was sort of what I wanted Margot Robbie's Barbie character to be.
Yeah.
But it didn't quite have that human element to it. It just felt like slapstick comedy. But in this movie, I kind of felt something with her character, and I was actually really pleasantly surprised by, I forget the actress's name who played the Wicked Witch, but I thought she was awesome. Has she been in anything prior to this?
She was in, what was that, Chris Hemsworth, Bad Times at the El Royale, and a couple of other like smaller projects. But she was amazing, man. I think of, and the movie's been out a bit, so we can dive into some spoilers if you'd like.
Sure.
We've seen we see that scene where they are together, and Galinda is trying to embarrass her when she brings her the Wicked Witch hat, which is what I'm going to call it. And that sequence where they're just kind of getting into the same mindset of, oh, I don't feel like I want to be this way to you anymore because now I see how that's affecting you. And they're touching hands. They're doing the little dance together, dude. Like, and that scene where she cries, the Wicked Witch cries, that got me. And
did it?
I never expected it because I'm sitting there like, damn, man, like, why you gonna make fun of her like this? And I'm sitting here like, oh wow, I'm actually really invested in this. And Grande's acting's amazing. I think it's Cynthia Erivo. Erivo's acting is amazing in that scene, and that's the scene of the movie for me, man. And at that point, I didn't realize how much I was enjoying the movie. I sat back and really started to contemplate where the hell I am and what the hell I'm doing, but it worked.
I did the same thing, man, and it's no spoiler to say this is part one.
Uh-huh.
I never thought, once again, I would say this, I'm looking forward to Wicked Part 2 next year. It's probably one of my more anticipated movies of the year because I want to see how dark and decrepit it goes. I know some of the things that potentially happen, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. But most importantly, the thing I really took away from Wicked was, and I guess if you look close enough at like The Wizard of Oz from 1939, it's always sort of been there. But Oz is built on corruption and lies and deceit.
Yeah.
And when you look at it from that perspective, I kind of like it. It's not just this magical fairy tale land beyond. It's all lies and deceit. And Jeff Goldblum is a carny who is manipulating people. And I like that. That's a great dynamic. I love this.
That's great casting too. I was afraid that Goldblum was kind of going to be a shticky character, like he's going to do all those things that he always does and wave his fingers like
but
this.
He does.
He does. But he added so much more. Yeah, he's like, well, let me go ahead and sing a song for you. But even the songs were good, man. Like the Goldblum songs, the themes that we start exploring and introducing. What happens with the animals? They're taking away the goat teacher, and I'm like, oh shit, this is a lot darker than I expected. Apparently, the book. This is what I've seen on Twitter. The book is really dark. Like, lots of sex, lots of gore, lots of really
With the
dark...
animals?
Maybe the goat. It could be goat sex, which I would appreciate.
I mean, hey, Peter Dinklage, I'll take what I can get. If he's a goat, hey, even better.
He's a goat, man. It's still Peter Dinklage. Like, it's, just imagine.
It all feels the same.
Just close your eyes.
I loved how, but also, let me tell you this. I got a quick backstory for you relating to Wicked and the experience of watching it. I went to the screening of it, and for some odd reason, the first screening I saw that had no trailers. It was the public screening, so I got there like 10 minutes late and missed the first 10 minutes of the movie. So going back and rewatching it last night in theaters, I finally saw the first 10 minutes. I was like, I missed a lot.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see Munchkin land. And also, I didn't know this. I didn't know debauchery was to blame for the character of the Wicked Witch, which just adds more flavor to it.
Yeah, man. The opening scene was great because I grew up as a massive fan of Wizard of Oz. The damn monkeys scared me to death. Those flying monkeys.
Oh, they still do, man.
Oh, they gave me chills. But I loved that movie growing up, and so to see those connections in the beginning of this version of that, and then apparently, and I haven't seen who or what, but apparently part 2 is going to explore Scarecrow and Tin Man a lot more, which is sweet, and I'm pumped to see how they do that. So the fact that this got me pumped over tying into Wizard of Oz is insane to me. But it did, man. I was motivated after the movie's over. I'm like, I can't wait for part 2. I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah, and you got a little snippet of maybe the Cowardly Lion in this one. Not just the opening scene, but you see him as a little baby in a cage of sorts. I'm pumped for it, man. But here's my biggest complaint, and maybe you feel the same way, maybe you don't care. I don't know. But what did you think about the color grading and color timing of the movie? A lot of people say it's a little flat and a little dull.
Yeah.
And I think if you upped the contrast by like 2%, and the saturation by maybe 1%, I think it would have been a bit more of a vivid, immersive experience in the theater. Those are my nitpicks with it.
I agree with that. And also, somebody on Twitter brought this up, and I thought it was interesting. There are a lot of scenes where, and again, we're nitpicking, but there are a lot of scenes where the actors' faces aren't lit properly. You've got lighting around the sides of their faces, and you don't get that front light that just kind of captures. It almost looks like there's shadows on their faces the whole movie, and that did start to It started to bug me as I really paid attention to it while watching the movie, and I'm with you on the color. You know, especially when it's such a lively world and it's such a magical world, you would think, and the director said this, we're trying to make it feel more grounded in that way. I'm like, I don't know if that's the move to make it feel more grounded.
No, I don't think grounded is removing contrast from reality. I don't think that's a grounded look.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's just me, but hey, it's all subjective, I guess. But yeah, other than that, I had a great time. And I will admit this, I'm not, maybe I am proud of it at this point. I don't know. But I have been listening to the Wicked soundtrack in my car for the last week after the movie. And you know what? I'm a man. I'm not ashamed of anything. I like it.
There you go.
I think it's great.
Attaboy. I respect that.
But
I think you're crazy. No, I'm just kidding. I love it. I've listened to it 1,000. I've listened to Defying Gravity like 4 times. And I'm just like picturing that final scene. It's getting to me, man. It's sticking with me.
oh, you're a punk. I was just joking, man.
Oh, shit. I mean,
I'm going to go eat beef jerky and watch Roadhouse.
I'm just kidding.
No, I love it too, man. I love it too. But I'll tell you what, I got a perfect segue for this.
Oh, boy.
Speaking of musicals and songs I listen to on repeat in the car.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Classic.
So I know for a fact you did. I did as well. Moana 2. Were you a fan of the original?
I love the original. I genuinely believe the first Moana is possibly the best modern Disney animated movie. It's up there with Wreck-It Ralph. It's up there with Tangled, which I think is great. Don't care as much about Frozen. Slay me in the comments section. But I think Moana's great. And so what I was looking forward to with the second one was don't just do the same stuff, but not as good. Okay? Because that's what a lot of these Disney sequels, and it even reminds me, and people were saying this, it reminds me of the early 2000s when we had those straight-to-DVD movies, when these movies would come out, and they would do the same stuff, which people love, and it wasn't terrible, but it's just, well, that's not as good, that song's not as good, that plot point's not as good. And that's kind of how I felt while I was watching Moana 2. It's not a bad movie. It's not a film that I want to turn off 20 minutes in because I like this world. I think Moana and Maui are great. But at the end of the day, I want a sequel, if not elevate, then come close to elevating the first or bringing something original to the table. And unfortunately, John, I just didn't feel that way. And I don't know how you feel about it exactly, but do you think Moana 2 did the first one justice?
Listen, I'll say this. I'll prelude this with this.
All right.
I had just recently watched the first Moana a week before watching the sequel. Now, keep in mind, I'm a dude who loves a good Disney movie. I think Tangled is phenomenal, and I would say I prefer Tangled over the Moana films, but
that's fair.
I still enjoyed Moana quite a bit. I think it was vivid, bright, it's fun to go on an adventure and look at the rock. But the sequel to this film is a serviceable sequel, but it definitely has sequelitis, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, I agree with all your sentiments. It just feels like more of the same. They try to go bigger, but I felt less along the way. And I think this is almost an objective opinion right here. The songs are definitely not as memorable or catchy by any means. And I know you're a nerd. I know you know this, but maybe some people listening, originally this was intended to be a Disney Plus limited series. And when you watch this, it feels that way. It feels like they might have had way more filler to dive into and some of these plot points along the way, but they condensed it for the film. And maybe they should have left this as a Disney Plus limited series, in my opinion.
I agree. I felt some things missing while I was watching them. Like, I don't... These people that are going along for the ride here, because you love Maui, you love Moana, you love the chicken and the pig. I don't know their names. Ham and Cluck. That's what we're going to call them.
Is that their names? No. It sounds good to me, man.
Ham and Cluck. That's their name.
Ham and Cluck. Ham and Cock.
Dude, that's going to be our nicknames, Ham and Cock.
Bacon and eggs.
We can call them Bacon and Eggs for today. That's who they are.
Okay.
But those guys are great, right? And then you got just a character there for every problem we encounter. And so you need somebody to fix the boat. Well, we got a boat fixer. You need somebody who brings some comedic relief. We got a guy who loves Maui. You need somebody that does something with plants. We got a guy who does something with plants. It's like, if I would have known more about these characters, I would have been happy, but I didn't know as much. And so I don't care about these guys singing along. I don't care about this dude's obsession with Maui, and they're just not as impactful because you can tell they cut out, well, probably like 5 episodes worth of content with this movie.
Backstory on who these people are and why you should care. Yeah, no, it felt like the highlight reel of what the story could have been.
Uh-huh.
But I will say this about the crew of oddballs that go on this open sea journey. Mm-hmm. I like that aspect. And like you said, I think they could have dove into it a bit deeper, but I liked the curmudgeoned old man who stayed down below. I liked the weird obsessive guy who liked Maui a little too much and probably wanted to buy feet pics of him.
He did.
I like these characters. Like you said, you kind of just get the surface level version of who they are.
Yeah, they're very simple, and that's, Disney movies, they're okay when they're simple, but and again, I don't think this movie is bad, so I don't want to sit here and rag on it because I do think kids are going to like it. The kids in my theater, you could tell they loved being back in this world, and anytime a song would come on, they'd be dancing and singing. I just shut up, kid. But the movie itself, you think of the songs from the first, and I think of "You're Welcome," which is obviously the best, but Moana's song in the beginning, "How Far I'll Go," like that was a great song. And then when they're on the sea, and I'll say this, I've given Lin-Manuel Miranda flack over the years, okay? But you missed him here. You missed Lin-Manuel Miranda because it didn't have that flavor, it didn't have that spark, and there wasn't one song. Like, are you humming any of the songs to yourself right now?
No, and like going back to the rock song, "You're Welcome," I think that's catchy and memorable. His new song, it felt like they slapped that together in 7 minutes and just said, put it in the movie. I can't even hum to it. I don't know what the melody was. And my wife, who loves music and musicals, we both concurred it was completely atrocious. But I will say this, it's an okay time at the theater, but instantly forgettable, and you won't care about it. But are we allowed to dive into spoilers? Do people care? Or can I allude to a spoiler?
Sure.
Moana sort of becomes Wonder Woman by the end of the film.
Yeah, she does.
And now she has superpowers, and she herself is a demigod, which I think opens up a sequel to go bigger and more epic. That way she's not just tagging alongside the demigod, The Rock. So I guess maybe a third installment could be far more interesting than the second one.
Yeah.
But is that happening maybe in 7-10 years? I don't know.
Well, I will say this. Even before she became a demigod, I was thinking there are a lot of like little action scenes where she's doing flips and tying boat knots and jumping up the pole. And I'm like, is this how people felt about Daisy Ridley's character in Star Wars? Like, I'm feeling that way right now because Moana, she can do nothing wrong. Everything's working out for her. Like, I think that's the appeal of the first movie is she's this girl who's trying to find her way and get away from her family, and she doesn't do everything right. And in this movie, she basically does everything right. And even when she dies at the end, she doesn't die because she's fine. It's just like everything went her way. And I don't like when a character doesn't really have something in like an obstacle to overcome.
There's no consequence anymore.
Yeah. Even when she has an obstacle in this movie, she just overcomes it very quickly.
No, she's definitely she. The character is a Mary Sue,
yes.
And the thing about like going back to Rey from Star Wars, we all liked Rey when she was scrapping parts from a Death Star in the desert.
Force Awakens.
We liked those things, or a Star Destroyer in the desert. But as soon as she wielded that lightsaber, man, I'm like,
she's so powerful. Does everything right. Yeah.
So I guess Moana is now wielding the lightsaber, and now we just don't care. Is that what you're saying?
Basically, okay, I think that's a good. And not that it didn't piss me off while I was watching, but I did start to think about it. I'm like, when it's that scene where they're singing and she's tying everything and she's pushing everything in the right direction and pulling people off the boat. And I'm like, you said it. She's Wonder Woman, man. Like she can do everything perfectly. And so it just kind of bummed me out that it felt kind of lazy.
It did. But I did enjoy when they're on that raft in the open sea. It reminded me of a terrible movie, but I quite enjoy it. Guilty pleasure. A little movie called Waterworld from 1995 with Kevin Costner drinking his own urine on the open sea. And maybe I wanted some of that, and I knew it was a Disney movie, so I wasn't going to see it. But I just like the visuals. I will say that. But yeah, instantly forgettable movie.
Did look great though, man. I saw it in. I was at AMC filming a little. I didn't tell you about this. It did a little commercial for AMC theaters. We're gonna see if they like it or not. I don't know, but they gave me tickets to their movie in IMAX that day, and I will say, Moana 2 is one of the best looking modern Disney movies. It looks beautiful. To nail the water like they did. I mean, you have to because it's Moana. But dude, and the roar of the speakers during the more epic sequences at the end. I'm like, this is an experience. I just don't care about the characters as much, and that's what but it looked amazing. If you're in it for the visuals, it is spectacular in that way.
You definitely pulled out some positives for that commercial, didn't you?
The roaring speakers.
It looks great. Let's not talk about the story.
Of AMC IMAX. Get your tickets now. That's what I'm doing.
Hey, I'd buy tickets to that. Come on, man. All right.
Well, they see this, they'll love it, hopefully.
Can I talk about one sequel that I think is truly atrocious and does not look good at all?
Okay.
It's a movie called Gladiator 2.
You're hurting my heart, John.
I'm sorry. Okay, let me just give you some my personal backstory, and we'll dive into it. Okay. Gladiator for me from Ridley Scott is his best film he's ever made. I think Gladiator is one of the best films of the last 40 years. I think it's a timeless epic that just gets better with age. And if anything, Gladiator 2 proves that you cannot recapture that magic once again. And it also, to me, proved that Ridley Scott simply does not care anymore.
Oh, no.
I hated this movie, and I wanted to love it. I bought the popcorn buckets.
Yeah, you did.
I was excited to see it. I didn't think it would be as good as the 2000 masterpiece. Not even close. But I was hoping for a somewhat competent sequel. And what I got was the Netflix movie of the week taking place in ancient Rome with some gladiator fights. That's what it felt like to me. Instantly disposable action. And it even felt like Ridley Scott in the first installment has this timeless approach to filming things. There's nuance. He builds up the tension. You can see everything. In the new one, it just felt like, let's do one take, hold the camera, and we'll fix it in post-production. And I hated the color timing of the movie. It looks gloomy. It looks smudgy. It looks flat. And if you go back and watch the original, you can feel the warmth and the glow and the heartbeat of that film during the entire presentation. Those are my quick thoughts on Gladiator. What did you think, Austin?
I liked this movie. all that. And it's like, I like this movie. No, I did. I liked it. I think what I tried to do is, because I love the original too, it's easily a top Ridley Scott movie. It looks amazing. Is I just wanted this to be a good modern blockbuster. I didn't need it to be something that lived up to the first, which it doesn't. But I wanted it. I think I compared it more to the blockbusters I've seen this year as opposed to the first movie. And I do think it looks better than a lot of them, man. I genuinely believe the production design of this film, the epic set pieces and sets, even when we're with those within those closed spaces with Denzel Washington's character and our two weird kings, I think it looked good. Like the blue
one has syphilis, the other one has a slight form of Down syndrome. I don't know.
Well, I do agree with this though. One of those two, I can't remember the guy's name. The guy who's playing Human Torch. I thought he did good. The other guy.
Oh, yeah. Eddie.
The other guy didn't do good.
Eddie from Stranger Things.
Eddie from Stranger Things is awesome. Yeah, the other guy struggled. And so I didn't like that character very much. But I do think some of those more intimate moments, and man, one thing I really liked about this movie, and I know a lot of people don't, Denzel Washington. I know he didn't have the accent, and I know but I just thought he was so, I'm going to take this material, and I'm just going to have a great time with it. And I was watching him this dude's having the time of his life. I don't know if he knows what movie he's supposed to be in, but he's having the time of his life right now. And I really enjoyed his character. I thought he was a very menacing type character, so I won't be upset if he gets an Oscar nomination, which he might.
I don't think he deserves one for this. I don't get me wrong. I love me some Denzel and all the Denzel-esque things he does. In this movie, he has a line where he goes, politics. And 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 he goes I
remember that.
I'm just like, okay, Denzel, all right. And I didn't hate that he didn't even attempt an accent, which I think would have helped, maybe.
Sure.
But really, my biggest complaint with even his character was in the third act, his character goes a completely radical different direction and it goes off the rails. But it's so abrupt. And then it concludes even more abruptly where you go, okay, this was your master plan, and now you're throwing all common sense and logic that you had immediately out the window so we can just wrap up this movie within the runtime it needs to end.
Yes, I agree with that.
Can I complain more?
No, dude, go ahead. I will say, though, I think I'm with you with the fact that I think this movie, and I've never said this about a Ridley Scott film, I think it needed to be longer. I really do. I think it needed to be longer.
It was missing 30 minutes of runtime to explore any character logic or motivations along the way. Because this almost, like we just mentioned for Moana 2, this feels kind of like the highlight reel of the story they originally intended to tell. And this is just a theory from my brain, but I feel like at one point in the writing process, this was a 2-part movie.
I could see that.
Because that entire Denzel arc could have went into the second movie, and I could see that being kind of a cool climax if you gave it more than 7 seconds to be executed. But really, going back to what you said, to debate with you just for the sake of fun.
Do it.
If you go to see this movie just for like an ancient epic action movie of the week, okay, I can pick up what you're putting down. But here's where I get angry is all the Gladiator fight sequences that you might go to see for that, they all feel like they lasted 3 minutes, and it never gives the characters time to breathe and take in the situation and go, okay, how are we going to overcome this? It just starts off with what's-his-face, mannequin guy, Paul Mescal, just going, stay together and we will live. It's like, yeah, I know your dad said that 20 years ago, and now that's all you're going to say, but you have no combat training, skill sets. You're not a general. You're not a leader. So what are you going to offer to this situation other than the one-liner you're stealing from Maximus from 20 years ago? But then they get into this big CGI battle. The camera's shaking. It's moving. And I swear you blink, and it's instantly over.
Yeah, I didn't mind the length of the battles. I like the fact that every battle felt... It felt epic. Now, not in the way that the first Gladiator felt, because that definitely feels more like a timeless classic. This Gladiator feels more like you said, kind of an action movie, put you in that world, but you're not sitting with the characters and allowing... Because, you think back to Russell Crowe's character in Maximus, he had so many intimate moments in between the action that made him stand out way more than Mescal's character in this film. That said, I don't think Mescal was bad in this movie. I just don't think he is that imposing figure, that imposing force that Crowe was, but I don't know if his character was supposed to feel that way. It almost feels like Mescal's character thought he was something that he wasn't because he had those lofty standards of Maximus to live up to, yet he couldn't quite fill those shoes. And the situations that he gets himself in all throughout this movie, he's constantly trying to fill those shoes and trying to be this guy that he's simply not. And I guess by the end of the movie, he does kind of win in a way, but I don't know.
You don't say.
But I don't know if he does it in a way to where people will look at him and say, "Oh, that is Maximus once more." It's more like, "Oh, that's a guy that is trying to be like what Maximus was." And so I saw it more as a guy who had big shoes to fill, couldn't quite fill those shoes, but still found ways in and out of situations. So yeah, it's hard though, man. When you think back to that first movie and what Maximus was able to do, and those speeches and those one-liners and those intimate moments, you just don't quite get that in this sequel.
Well, but the thing is, you kind of do, but it's the substandard version of it. So in like the first film, and I completely agree with like the screen presence, he doesn't have it, and his character this time around isn't this overly confident, badass general who can just take charge at every situation. He's a kid learning as he goes, and I completely understand that. But he still does this like half-hearted attempt at being his father. For example, every 30 minutes of this film, Paul Mescal's character gives this like speech that just feels like it was generated by Chat GPT, and you said, "Give me Maximus speech, and he took it, and that's what he did. But I'm like, who is listening to this? Where's this coming from? Where did he hear this verbiage? Because he only knew his father for like 7 minutes in the first film. So to me, it just felt like they were trying to retread old territory and not make him his own unique character. I didn't buy anything that he was saying. And also, when it comes to his like character logic and motivation, at one point he hates Rome. He hates everything. He hates his mother. And then in the next scene, he's fighting for the sake of Rome. And I'm like, where did this motivation come from all of a sudden? I just didn't buy it. Also, I thought the Lucilia, that's the mother's name, right?
Yeah.
And this is a real big nitpick, okay? This is why people hate me. The actress who plays her, beautiful woman, but she has a little too much modern day Botox in her face, which really took me out of it. And I thought maybe her character could have looked a little more withered. I think the age would have been nice. It's sort of like the Nicole Kidman AMC commercials. It's like,
AMC, look, so he didn't mean that. All right, if you're watching this, I just want you, please pay me, okay? I love you guys so much. Keep going.
Listen, I love AMC too, but if Nicole Kidman's sitting in there, I'm going to be creeped out and have to immediately leave, okay? What is this corpse doing in the theater? Can you remove it before rigor mortis sets in? So those are my thoughts on Gladiator 2. I'm glad you liked it. Plus, I thought the CGI animals just did not look as good as they could have. It looked a little rushed. It looked rushed. And Ridley Scott, you could just tell he didn't have the same care. Just the way the shots were set and the camera work, it looked very quick. It looked like they had no time to shoot this film. And that's probably not even true. But it just looked less than and cheaper.
That's fair. I do think it looks, I would say, less than Gladiator. I would say less than a lot of Ridley Scott movies. Even The Last Duel, which I'm actually a pretty big fan of. That's his best movie in recent memory, to be honest with you. That has a look to it that I don't know this one achieved, because it does feel more like a big budget blockbuster type thing.
Yeah, the camera it doesn't feel so handheld and jarring. Maybe that's what it is. But this new film, it just looks so digital. And I hate to go back to this old complaint, but I think with a Roman time period-esque film, when you have this overly digital film, or maybe it's the lack of care in this one, but everything looked like a set piece.
Yeah.
It looked like everything was a prop setting on the set. And going back to some of the interior shots that you mentioned, I think the money was there, but the direction was not to make me feel immersed back into this time period.
That's fair. Yeah, I liked some of the more intimate shots. I like the blue hue when it was those, I guess, nighttime scenes, but those scenes where you're in those little corridors and things like that, where the lighting couldn't be as good. And I do think some of those moments really felt epic and not as blockbustery as some other movies that I've watched this year. And even Wicked, I think Gladiator 2 looks as good as, if not better than Wicked, to be honest with you. But Wicked has everything else. You know what I mean? And dude,
yeah.
Again, we're going back, 6 months. Would you have thought that you enjoyed Wicked not just more than Gladiator 2, significantly more than Gladiator 2, and that would be the movie that you resonated with that weekend?
I don't know who I am anymore based on the answer I'm going to give you.
Identity crisis.
But Wicked was a good time. Gladiator 2, it almost put me to sleep in the theater, and that hurts me to say. But that's where we're at in films. So what say you, Austin? What's your summary for these 2 or 3 movies we've talked about? Clearly Moana's out of the running at this point. Yeah. But between Wicked and Gladiator, which one did you prefer?
Yeah, it's definitely Wicked. I like Gladiator 2. I think as a big blockbuster, it's entertaining. I'm curious to see where Ryan falls. I haven't talked to him. We've been saying on this podcast for weeks, it's a long road to Gladiator 2, okay? Because nothing has excited us. And then we got there, and I guess it was a little underwhelming for a lot of people. So I'm curious to see where he falls. But man, Wicked's it's a better movie. And I'm seeing people that are going to they're upset about the fact that it could get a Best Picture nomination. And for me, I'm like, man, in a weaker year where only a handful of movies have really done it for me, I'm not going to be mad if Wicked gets a Best Picture nomination because, first of all, it is a high-quality movie. Second of all, people saw it. You know what I mean? We get 10 Best Picture nominations, and I guarantee 6 of them are going to be movies that nobody has seen or nobody's going to see until they see it was nominated for an Oscar. And so we'll have our Dune 2s, we'll have our, I think we'll have our Wickeds, but everything else is it's not something that appeals to the general audience. And do you think they're not going to nominate it if it's going to bring eyes to the Academy Awards? Because people will watch if they perform a song from Wicked. I promise you that.
Oh, that's the plan. I assure you. They want the ratings. They want the musical.
Yes.
But I think it deserves a nom. I really do. And I think if you go look at the performances of Wicked, I think those performances both are worthy of being in that category. If for anything, the way I sum it up is, did a movie make you feel something? Did it take you somewhere else? And I can say both things about Wicked. Gladiator 2 put me to sleep and made me hate my life. Okay. So I think Wicked should get a nomination. Do I think it should win? I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that. I couldn't even have a conversation about what the best film of the year is right now off the top of my head. Do you have one in mind that you want to share besides? Is it Dune 2?
It's Dune 2. Yeah, it's far and away. Yeah, man. It's like nothing has even. I really enjoyed Challengers. I thought that was a great movie.
I did too, yeah.
So that's up there. The Substance, like you said, for sure. And I was a big Furiosa fan. So I don't know if that's going to crack my top, but I've seen some movies that I really loved, and obviously there's another movie that I just saw that will be up there that I will not talk about yet. We'll talk about that later. But that's going to be up there.
You should give me a hint.
Yeah.
One hint.
You remember that scene in SpongeBob when they're flicking the lights on and off, and then they look over and they say, Nosferatu. So that was a little more than a hint. Oh, damn it. All right. It's Nosferatu.
Was it good?
Shit. That's not. Yeah. Dude, this goes up after the embargo, so what am I saying? Yeah, Nosferatu's in it, dude. It's up there.
Oh, he's in it?
He's fucking in the movie, dude. But
does the movie suck in the best way possible?
There is so much sucking in this movie. So if you love sucking, you're gonna love it.
I love it.
If you love sucking, Chuck, you're gonna love this movie, man.
I love sucking and blood.
You're gonna freaking love this, man. But yeah, man, there's been a couple, but if you look at the totality of this year, we've had so many good, like the Top Gun Maverick year and 2019, and even last year had some really great movies. Man, I just haven't overwhelmingly loved a lot of movies this year. It's kind of bumming me out. I'm really looking forward to next year.
Yeah, I am too. There's some good movies this year, but the rewatchability is such a big factor with me, and how much I love a movie. And this year, it's like, there's some I could watch occasionally, maybe down the road, but there's not the one I need to go back to the theater and immediately revisit it over and over again. Yeah, I know. I needed that Top Gun Maverick this year, and the closest I got was Wicked.
Yeah, oh my God. Dude, what reality are we living in?
They both fly around, don't they?
Where are we? This is insane. The fact that Wicked is, I just like, man, I don't know. This is a weird world that we're living in right now.
Hey, I don't hate it, though, so I'm looking forward to the sequel.
Can I ask you one question before we go? Because I've been wondering this.
Yes.
I saw you tweeted you didn't like episode 1 of The Penguin. And I'm just curious. Have you caught up?
Yeah.
And have you watched the finale?
Okay, I'll lay it out there right now. I watched the first 2 episodes.
Okay.
And I get why people like them. For me, I can kind of predict who this character already is and where it's going.
Sure.
And with all that said, I did in fact watch the finale, the big ending, which I won't spoil.
Okay.
And I appreciate that. I respect it, and I like that. I like that it didn't toe the line. It gives you a conclusion, and it's like a villain will always be a villain.
Yeah.
I respect that. But with all that said, I just don't know if I want to go through 8 episodes to get to that point, because the character that is no longer, I just never was really a fan to start out with.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I like the Penguin, but those are my thoughts on it. So did you loved it, right?
Yeah, I loved it. It's
Okay.
top 3 shows for me this year. I mean, I wouldn't say it's number 1. I was a big Shogun fan. Arcane on Netflix is great, but it's definitely up there, man. I thought the finale was just like, I had to sit on that for a month before I could talk about it, and it was intense, man. I watched it. I watched it 3 weeks before the actual first episode came. So I guess it was more than a month. So yeah, I sat on it for forever. But dude, that finale was just, and I knew it was coming. Not to spoil it, but I was just pretty blown away by it. But man, I'm looking forward to. I think out of all the movies over the next, and we can end with this, the one I'm looking forward to the most is probably the Batman 2. That's probably my most anticipated. What would you say, just to see where your head's at?
You're saying next year? Or
Yeah,
that's
next
2026,
year
right?
we'll say next 2-3 years. What's the movie that's just got you?
Oh my God, I haven't even thought about next week, Austin.
Maybe Dune 3, that's up there.
I'm looking forward to Dune 3. I mean, heck, I'm still thinking about January, man. I'm looking forward to the Wolfman.
That looks great. Yeah, me too, man.
It looks like a good time.
Yeah.
It looks like
fun.
I love me a good monster movie.
Mm-hmm.
I really do, and I think we need more of those. So I'm looking forward to that. As far as like big epic blockbusters coming out, when's the release date for Dune 3?
I want to say the rumor is late 26, early 27. That's what they're looking at right now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'll tell you what, next year, and this is I'm sort of looking forward to Avatar.
Okay. Me too.
What is this, 3 next year? Hey, listen, take me to the theater. Show me big blue people.
Yeah.
I want to get immersed into Pandora, okay? I don't expect much. Just take me there. Fantastic Four could be kind of good. Maybe that'll be good. What else is coming out next year? My
Superman.
brain is melted.
Superman, that's a big
Superman is the one that either makes or breaks the entire upcoming DC universe of movies. And you know what I say? I wish they would have just started with another Batman movie in my own selfish ways, because here's the thing. If Superman sucks, doesn't do well at the box office, then all those plans go out the window for another version of Batman, which makes me angry. Yeah. So had they just started with Batman, for me, that would have been the safer route to go.
Yeah, I agree. And there's so many, like, do they make this as grounded as the Batman 2? I hope they make it more comic booky. Then,
I think it's gonna be very fantastic.
Yeah, that's the kind of the tone, because man, I've been missing that lately. Like, I love the Nolan stuff. I love Robert Pattinson's Batman, but there's a part of me that's like, I want Batman swinging from a grappling hook. I want Batman flying down from rooftops and fighting, Clayface. I want all that stuff. And so, if you give me something more like the animated series, I'm not opposed, and that just kind of works with the Superman we got, Green Lantern, and all those things.
No, I definitely think it gels better in that universe. Like, I could never see Robert Pattinson fighting Superman. He can barely fly off Gotham GPD, man. He can't fight a god. What are you doing? He can barely glide. But no, I like it in its own self-contained thing. But I'm looking forward to a more fantastical version of it. But I am looking forward to the Superman movie as well. I'm holding out hope, but I really think we just have to wait for that trailer.
Yeah, that's the big thing, man. If the trailer hits, I'm excited. Apparently, they have like 12 versions of the trailer, is what James Gunn was saying.
Oh,
but
really?
Yeah, they said they don't know which one to go with, and the studio doesn't know which one they want to go with. So it's like, they know how much everything depends on this. This is the biggest thing DC's ever done, I think.
Yeah, maybe have a test demo of people to watch all 12 trailers and give you some insights to which one works best.
Yeah, man. Like that first look that they did with the stupid thing in the background. I'm like, that's not. You did that, and then what are you doing? What are you doing, man?
Yeah, this is not the best way to present this character. He looks like he's so apathetic, putting on his work boots. But then again, I like that because it looked like he was, he like, in a sense, that picture where he's putting on his boots and the city in the background's like, what, explosions or something crazy is happening. It's like a guy getting up early to go to work who doesn't want to go to work but has to pay the bills. And it's like, I get that obligation. And if that's the direction they're going with it, to make Superman feel like a real dude who's stuck with this obligation of power, It's like I think we can kind of all relate to that human element to some degree. And with saying that off the top of my head, that kind of makes me want to see the movie now.
Interesting. I didn't think about it that way. I like that. That gives a different, like Man of Steel gave a different side to him. This kind of gives him a different dynamic, which I like. Ooh, man. All right.
Okay, yeah.
And
okay,
you're wearing you're wearing a Jurassic Park shirt, man. We got a Jurassic Park movie next year.
Do you like it? You got a Kentucky shirt on. I think it's okay.
Like my Kentucky shirt. I
do.
Dude, I feel like all these podcasts, I'm either wearing Pittsburgh Steelers or Kentucky. I gotta switch it up, man. I gotta have a John Flickinger shirt on or something like that.
You do, with my stupid face screaming on it, and I want one of yours too. You know what I always thought you should do, Austin? Just going off the rails here with some casual convo.
Give it to me.
I always thought you should have like a secondary channel talking about sports, man, because it seems like that's your secondary passion, and I think you should dive into that.
You know, funny enough, I actually started a Pittsburgh Steelers TikTok page recently. I haven't put a lot into it. I do have 700 followers, but I haven't done a lot with it. But I kind of react to the games and I troll other teams' fans. And dude, I don't know if you see me on X.
I do. All you do is complain about sacks and touchdowns and the Steelers, and I'm like, what is this guy talking about? I don't know.
I'm so mean, dude. I called somebody a pussy yesterday. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm just like, because this guy said, we were arguing about the Bengals, and he's like, stick to being a movie critic. And I said, stick to being a pussy. And all these people they're like, damn, Austin.
Dude, see, I like that. See, you're so passive when it comes to films, but when it comes to sports, you're like, fuck you, pussy. When I say Gladiator 2 sucks ass, you're just like, yeah, but it's okay.
You're right. You're right, man. I get, there's something about movies. It's just like, I'll debate and things like that. But when it's sports, dude, I'm just like, if somebody says something that I think is wrong, I will go, dude, my uncle got on his Twitter account and was backing me up yesterday, and we were just like, fuck you. We were like screaming at this Bengals fan. And I'm like,
really?
I hope I don't ruin my movie image, but you got to do what you got to do. You got to protect your team, man. I got to protect. I'm the only guy that's going to protect my team. All right, that's how I feel.
My family. Growing up, my family was a Bengals house.
Oh, well, there you go. That's who I was arguing with yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. I'm not proud of it, but that's who our team was.
Yeah.
Okay, Boomer Tyson was a good quarterback, I think, in the early '90s, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. That's all I know about football. I
like that, dude. Yeah, the Bengals. I mean, they've been good, but this year Pittsburgh's kind of whooped up on them, and they're not taking it well, and they're not going to make the playoffs, even though they have made the playoffs the last couple of years. So they're struggling. The Steelers are really good this year, finally. First time in 5 years. So I'm happy, but I'm also very defensive. So it makes for some very... Just, if you see it, just ignore it, man, because it's my X feed is ridiculous.
I'll try my best. I almost want to dive into it and just back you up, even though I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
You're getting there, you're like, yeah, fuck you, Bengals.
Yeah. I share a wicked gif.
You're like, that's
go
all right.
Team go.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think is funny.
I watch pro wrestling. That's what I know about sports. Okay, all right.
Dude, I'm sitting there like screaming F you to all these Bengals fans, and they click on my page, and I'm like, Wicked's the best movie of the year, and I'm singing Defying Gravity, and they're like, this guy's secretly a little bitch.
No, you could never take you serious. You almost need a second page. Have you considered such?
I have. I think there's...
Okay.
There are some lines that I've crossed lately that I'm like, man, I hope they don't go to my YouTube channel because they could... Or I hope I never get a job because I could get fired for the stuff that I'm saying. So I need a.
Oh, you could. It's scary, man.
Yeah.
But also the two like genres that don't mix are movies and sports.
No.
For some reason, they just do. The audience will never. The same audience member will never love both as much as maybe you do, and that's the weird thing. So I think you should start it. Like you have a second TikTok now. You should start a second X account.
Dude, I need a burner. And that way I can just say everything.
Anonymous. Anonymous. just be this anonymous troll, calls everyone a pussy for liking the Bengals, man. That's all you do. You dedicate your whole day to it.
That's what.
And I'll start one that just talks shit to people who like Gladiator 2. I'll call them a pussy too.
That's like I'm tweeting about Gladiator 2, and it's just this random. It says like Flan Dickinger, and it's just like, hey, fuck you for liking Gladiator 2. I'm like, who's this guy? Who is this guy?
Flan Dickinger.
Who's this guy? Tell him
it's my Swedish porn star name.
It's very anonymous, man. You should do that. I would respect that.
I think we should end this podcast and immediately go do such. Yes.
Well, John, listen, man.
Yes.
I want to have you back. I don't know when you're watching Nosferatu. I don't know what we're doing next year, but I want to have you back. We need to do more. Ryan, we missed you, buddy. Hopefully next time John's on, you can be on. We can all mingle together. But it'll just be a great time. But right now, John, where can the people? I know they know, but where can the people find you online?
Yeah, just search out John Flickinger or the Flick Pick. I have 2 channels, so check me out if you get the time and a chance, and you can type it in the Google search.
Yeah, I would love to check you out. Also, John has OnlyFans. He sells feet pics and dresses his toes up like little Jurassic Park dinosaurs.
I put a little baby oil on the tips, and just for you though, Austin. You know what I'm talking about.
I appreciate that.
All right.
Well, that's it. How does Ryan end this? Goodbye. See ya.
Oh,
That's it.
bye.
Okay, perfect.